there were hundreds of people reaching out to me saying, "What is freelancing? Everyone's talking about it. I don't know what it means and I don't know how to do it."
Shreya Pattar wrote her first post on LinkedIn in 2019, amassing over 1.4 million reviews.
And let's say if this time next year I launch a product, then who would buy that product?
Her content caught the attention of business owners, SaaS founders, and coaches globally. She was hired to create content for their LinkedIn profiles, manage their online reputations, and help them scale their personal brands.
What makes a viral post? How did you begin your journey into social media authority?
I started essentially because, like, when I was in my first year of university, I had just a kind of meeting with the CEO of LinkedIn, and that's just, it was just one event, one conversation I had with him. I kind of posted something about it online, and it went viral. So basically, the story starts from there, about from like actually posting something, it going viral, and then from there I just started posting more content regularly and just writing more and putting myself out there. I've been writing since I was pretty young, but actually putting something out there under my name, I started doing that in that particular incident of joining the first year. So that's where it started, chance incident basically, and then kind of kept rolling from there.
Your first viral post reached 1.5 million people and gained you 14,500 likes. What makes a viral post? Have you figured out the formula?
In some way, yes. I mean, when we are writing for clients as well, we do have certain frameworks that we know outperform others. And I would say fundamentally it comes down to storytelling. The better stories you can tell, the more odds that the post goes viral. Second is also how intriguing are you in the content. I think also having something that people would want to, again, like I said, engage with, comment on. There's a reason why they would share it with their friends, they would repost it on LinkedIn, something, because it makes them feel something. Now that could be a positive thing or a negative thing. It could make them feel angry because they think you're wrong. It could make them feel conflicted because they're not sure if you're right, or they could just feel good because they can relate to that kind of story. So there's so many different feelings that I think you can evoke through writing. And ultimately it comes down to, okay, what kind of story do you have to share, in what way and in what form, what emotion does this particular post evoke. And when we come to the technicality of it, I think the way the post is structured really really matters. It's not just the story but how you present it. So again, having some sort of like intrigue in the hook, or just kind of giving away the end result within the hook, like how are you layering your story. I think that's also a very impactful way to get more engagement and more virality, so to speak.
Okay. Yeah, that helps. You mentioned storytelling there. Obviously, very important for us. We love stories for as long as we've been alive. I mean, our species rather. And what do you offer that's maybe different? Like how do you help people tell their stories?
I mean, I think overall it comes down to the time. The kind of people that we work with are typically like extremely busy entrepreneurs. They're running like multi 7, 8 figure businesses, and it's really difficult for them to pull out time for their personal branding. At the same time, it's not that easy to just find a ghostwriter and have them, let's say, publish one post every day. What you, again, like I said, what you want to maintain is storytelling and you want to maintain authenticity. So that's what it comes down to. And we know the frameworks, and we do what we do is we pull those stories out of you and we put them onto your LinkedIn while maintaining your authenticity, and without you sacrificing like hours and hours every month to do that.
And you've been doing this for about 6 years or nearly 6 years at this point since, oh yeah, I guess about 6 years from June 2018. Is that correct?
Yeah, somewhere up in like towards the end of 2018.
So you probably have, you evidently have mastered your craft. What led to you going from freelancer to starting SP Ventures?
It was what I call a natural progression. Like it was a natural next step. If I wanted to work with more people, if I wanted to build something that could add more value, if I also wanted to evolve in this entire process, build bigger things, build new things, and also have scope to do different things as well as an addition to the LinkedIn branding, then it just seemed like the natural next step to, have a team, have this entire, like, again, like a team of people to help me out with not only my vision but also with our clients' visions. So I think it was just the natural next step to take if I wanted to scale and if I wanted to, also get into other things as well.
It is a natural next step in many respects, but it is still a big step. Were there any challenges going from freelancer to operating your own business?
Oh yeah, definitely many, many challenges. And I don't think that ever ends. It still continues. Every day is a new challenge, I would say. But initially, I think just I made up my mind that yes, I want to work as a team and I want to start an agency. But although I think it's been like a back and forth for 2 years, even if today you ask me, okay, how long has it been since the agency? I would probably say it's been like 3 months because the idea of an agency that I want to build, or the concept of what an agency is supposed to be versus how it starts out, is so entirely different. So we've had a lot of back and forth in terms of even like the kind of people that I've worked with, the hiring, the firing, learning, having all those learning curves, even with in terms of like retaining clients or having the team face clients directly or have direct communication with clients. Just things you don't anticipate will be big things to work on or things to actually address specifically. But yeah, I think it's just a learning curve and you just go through those experiences and kind of figure out new things every day.
Could you walk us through a little bit what the process is like of opening a business in Dubai as a foreigner?
I mean, the main thing is you need to kind of register your business. So you open a company, and there are multiple options as to what type of company you can open up. And then based on that, you get a residence permit to live in Dubai. So that's pretty much the idea. So you open a company that could be however short term or long term that you like in terms of registration. And then based on you being a business owner or you being like you having some sort of partnership in a business, all those factors can allow you to live in Dubai. That's how it would work.
About how long was that process for you?
For me, I was, I think, an exceptional case where I had a lot of back and forth, quite a few issues and concerns with moving. But I would say typically it's a few weeks, if not a few months. So it's pretty fast. Yeah.
Does having a large social media following help you in that process at all?
I'm not sure. I think it's more about your credibility overall, as I mean, just as a person. And also, it is definitely about your revenue. So, how much money you have been bringing in for the last few months. I would say typically the last 3 to 6 months, that also matters. So, they do have certain thresholds that they consider.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. So, going back to your agency, you've managed over 150 clients in 13 countries across 10 industries. Are you like, what is your strategy regarding your customer profile? Are you looking at like industry agnostic, region agnostic? Are you able to transfer some of your learning, let's say, in one region or one industry into another? Could you describe a little bit about your thought process there?
Yeah, so mainly we want to work with people who are the face of the company. I think that is the primary, you know, primary thing that we look at, primary aspect we consider. So we focus on building out personal brands, right? So it could be somebody who is either in like senior leadership and they represent the company in a on a very large scale, or they could be like founders, they could be they could be solopreneurs, they could be co-founders, or even somebody in the director level. So basically when they represent the company, that is typically somebody that we work with. And in terms of industry, yeah, we are industry agnostic. At this point, actually, we worked with over 30 different industries. And ultimately, it comes down to, again, just having frameworks in place. So we have certain things that we want to understand about the client. And as long as we nail those things down, then we don't need industry expertise, or we don't need to have a certain sort of experience in that particular industry to be able to build out their brand. So it's more about, I would say, again, it's more about the strategy and it's more about the frameworks rather than the specifics of, okay, do you understand the ins and outs of for example, what blockchain is. We don't need to know.
Okay. And you also turn people's LinkedIn profiles into revenue. You mentioned that you were able to get one client over 40 leads a day and over six figures or over 100K rather, revenue in a month. Could you describe a little bit about how that works? Like, how would someone turn their LinkedIn profile into a business essentially?
It definitely comes down to having clarity on the vision. So, what a lot of people do is when they start building their LinkedIn profile, they just want to get more followers, they just want to get more connections, and they're chasing after, let's say, what is trending now, what is viral now, and it's not futuristic. So, they are focused on the now and focused on this one post rather than, okay, what are my next 10 posts going to look like? What is the outcome I want these 10 posts to have? What is my next 1 year on LinkedIn going to look like? What kind of audience am I building? And let's say if this time next year I launch a product, then who would buy that product? And if I launch that product, would my current audience actually buy it? So those are the kind of things you have to consider when you are building a brand on LinkedIn. Then you have alignment. Otherwise, if you just create content based on, again, what's trending right now, or topics that may interest you just as a fleeting passing thing, but it's not something that you plan to monetize going forward, you won't make money out of it. So that's the first thing. Have a super clear vision as to what exactly you want out of LinkedIn, and then build your LinkedIn in accordance to that. And the second thing I would say is that have products ready. It it doesn't matter how big or small your audience is, even if you're starting from scratch, but you have a product you can test, you can sell, you have something to promote, and in that sense each post has the potential to make you money, right? So you never know who's seeing your content, you never know who's interested in buying. So what you do is you do your homework and you do your preparation from your side. If you don't have something to sell, it's not going to make you money at all. So I would say it's also that process where it comes down to maybe even the product first, and then building an audience that is catered towards the product.
Sounds like just being intentional to a large extent about what you're doing. Who are you reaching out to connect with? Who are you targeting when you write your posts? What is your message? And like you said at towards the end there, what is your offer? And just making sure each of those things is tight. Would you add anything to that?
Being intentional is definitely a good way to put it. And it is definitely how I also describe this to clients. Like, hey, for example, most of our clients, when you're an entrepreneur, there's somebody who's an entrepreneur in multiple different industries. So they could run some sort of an online business, also some sort of a brick and mortar business, maybe some sort of a D2C brand. They're doing e-com, they're doing some sort of coaching consulting, they're interested in speaking events, they're doing podcasts. They have so many different things going on, and of course this does not even include their personal interests or hobbies. So when it comes down again to LinkedIn, you again need to be intentional about, yes, you're doing a lot of things, but what do you want out of LinkedIn? So you pick one or two key elements from your entire, let's say, career or your profession or your personality, and then you present that on LinkedIn. So definitely intentionality is a good word to use there.
So, looking at the platforms, you specialize in LinkedIn and Instagram at this point. Is that right?
Yeah.
How are those platforms similar and how are those platforms different regarding the types of posts that you would do, the frequency of the posts, hashtags, etc.?
Instagram definitely requires more in terms of frequency of content. LinkedIn, you can get away with doing like one post every alternate day. So that's like three a week, four a week. But Instagram is more intense. So it's not only you posting every day, preferably, but also being active on stories, also being active in your DMs, also being active in your broadcast channel, maybe doing an Instagram live every few weeks. So there's a lot of other elements to consider. And of course, something that goes up on LinkedIn is typically it's just there to stay. And what happens is it kind of quickly goes down on your feed. So your posts are more difficult to scroll through or walk through when it comes to LinkedIn. Definitely more text heavy as well and text first. But LinkedIn is changing. So video content is definitely being pushed again now. On the Instagram front, of course, video content has always been, at least in the last few years, it's always been the one major thing that makes your profile work. But I would say also it is very much more visually demanding, because like I said, on LinkedIn you can still, like, the posts are seen when you keep scrolling, but on Instagram it's more like a grid structure, so the visuals matter. And I think Instagram definitely becomes more demanding in that sense. If you don't know video editing, if you don't know graphic designing, if you don't have, let's say, not that you need these things or you need like the best possible skills, but of course when you look at the competition out there, you don't want to have a certain level of editing quality, you want to have a certain type of camera, you want to have a certain type of mic. So I think a lot more resources go into being active on Instagram. And like I said, stories, so you posting something every single day, coming up with new ideas, having that more community like interaction with your audience, much more demanding compared to LinkedIn. So that's how I would see the difference between the two.
Are you seeing one being better for a particular type of client or industry, or are they both necessary for everyone?
I wouldn't say both are necessary. I think it definitely, first of all, comes down to how much you're willing to invest in terms of time and mental capacity as well onto the platforms. Because Instagram, I think definitely, if you do one platform like all in, it's much better to do that than to try to do a little bit of everything and just nothing working out, right? So what I would say is either you can start out with one platform and see how you feel about that and take it from there. But overall, LinkedIn is definitely more powerful for B2B things, and Instagram is more powerful for B2C or even like D2C brands, where there's more either physical products or there are more lower ticket products. So it could be an ebook, a course, some sort of a consultation coaching call, things like that. And LinkedIn is much better for like higher ticket services when you want like agency clients or even higher ticket coaching and consulting services. I think those work better on LinkedIn.
Thanks for that answer. That's really helpful. And then looking at Instagram, I'd like to add YouTube Shorts, X, and TikTok. Have you considered any of those for additional ways in which your clients or yourself might reach or expand their audience?
Yes, definitely. So what we do is, as of now, we do create content for LinkedIn, video content for LinkedIn. So what we suggest for all our clients is like, since you have this, just post it everywhere you can. Get it out on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, on YouTube Shorts, because the same clip is now suitable to go on all these major platforms. So again, it comes down to how much time do you have to invest into building out all of these, or how many resources do you have available. Personally, I prefer to stick to LinkedIn and Instagram. These are the two main platforms that I have also a strong audience on. I know exactly how they work, I know the ins and outs. When it comes to Twitter, I think Twitter or X, it has changed a lot. So while we used to do that for clients before, it has become very challenging now to scale. And I think Twitter is much more is a place where you kind of hang out. I think that's a much more nice way to look at it. And Twitter is not content, I would say. Twitter is more like it's just something that flows. I think that is a very good way to approach that, especially as an entrepreneur. But LinkedIn and Instagram are like content in a certain way.
I see. Yeah. So I'd like to also talk to you about Sigma Squared Society. How did you become a member? I know that's invite only, but could you talk a little bit about how you joined?
Yeah, one of my friends actually just suggested that I explore this opportunity. So it's barely been 2 weeks maybe since I got into it. So yeah, just trying out something different and new.
Have you looked at similar kind of services or communities out there, or was this your first time being involved in something like this?
This would probably be the first time in a long time. I have been a part of a lot of such things in university or in school, especially. But yeah, this would be the first time in a long time for sure.
What are you hoping to discover or achieve by being a part of this? It looks like a prestigious society.
Definitely get more exposed to like social side of me. I think that's what I'm looking at. So much of my work is online. So much of my work is with people who are typically older than me, people who are typically like I don't end up meeting them. It's all online, and it's not really a social thing in that sense. But I think being a part of a community, especially if I'm part of this in Dubai, I not only have the opportunity, but I have the push to actually get out there and be more social, actually network, be more offline, be more disconnected from the internet. And I really appreciate those things. So having a strong, force behind that in this community form, I think that's something I'm looking forward to.
Is travel going to be a bigger part of your routine each year? Are you planning to hit a couple of regions or countries, or do you just kind of travel for leisure?
I recently started traveling, and it's definitely been a very important part of my life. I've traveled a lot when I was younger and definitely want to do more of it. I think the whole idea of having your own business, at least for me, having my own business or having the freedom to work from anywhere, literally to work from anywhere possible, as long as I have my laptop and internet connection, um, I want to make more use of that freedom. And of course, Dubai is very centrally located in the sense that it's actually very easy to get to multiple countries from here. So just want to make the most of all those things.
Yeah, that's great. And you're very successful and looks like, you're going to be continue to be successful. But you are a human being, as are we all. Could you talk to us about some of those times that we could all relate to that there was challenging and it didn't look like it was going to work out?
Oh, I think that also happens very, very, very often. I think when it comes to social media, for example, one of the moments where I felt like, okay, this is something that's never going to work out. I need to abandon ship, just run, swim to safety, whatever. Like, I need to leave right now. Is when one of my posts on LinkedIn had a few hate comments. So, just people disagreeing with me. That was the first time somebody was disagreeing to what I had to say. And it wasn't just like a line or two. People wrote full on LinkedIn posts in themselves, but in my comments. And I think that really got to me. That was the first time I had such an experience since I started creating content online. That one was a tricky experience. I deleted my LinkedIn app for like a day, and I was like, okay, I'm never going back. But I don't know. I just thought that, look, this is part of it. Just because somebody says something doesn't mean that I'm wrong. It doesn't mean that they're right. And ultimately, it probably doesn't even matter because everyone's just, it's easy to say something when you're just on the phone. No one actually is able to see you or actually, in your proximity to be able to say that. If somebody met me, they wouldn't say these things to my face. And I think that those kinds of things just put a lot of ideas into perspective about how to approach being active on social media or how to deal with hate comments or trolls. And that was nothing. Looking back, that was absolutely nothing. I have been, like, since then, I've had at least 100 posts where people have absolutely wrecked me in the comments, and now I don't care. Like,
You're bulletproof.
yeah, now I'm bulletproof. Now I cannot be phased. So yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's something I think we could all relate to. None of us want to be like shamed or kind of called out or not feel like we don't belong. Certainly on such a public platform. You mentioned they wouldn't say that to your face, and I think that oftentimes two things can be true at once, and everything is a trade-off. So in this instance, I think that that can be a gift that you're seeing what people would say when they're not saying it to your face, because even though it hurts and would maybe be nicer not to have that at all, there is perhaps some learning from there. Either what vulnerabilities do I have within me? What is this exposing about a thought process? Is there an element of truth to there that I could explore and build upon? And then also just like the growth aspect where now you're not phased by it as much at all. I was curious, you must have, I mean, you do have many comments, and I don't think it's possible to read them all. How do you go about relating to an audience that's so large, especially as it continues to grow?
I do read all my comments. I typically don't respond to all of them, but I end up reading all of them at some point just while scrolling or so. And the thing about having an audience and having, like I said, an intentional audience is that at a particular time or in a particular phase, people are going to have the same exact 5 questions. Everyone that follows you at the same time is going through like maybe 3 or 5 key problems. They're going to be the exact same problems. and you can answer them in just those 5 responses. So it's more about having that common link. And again, people may ask questions in different ways, but if I dig deeper into it, I know that it's coming from the same fundamental thing. For example, people complaining about, okay, I don't know, on Instagram, for example, I teach how to freelance, how to start, your online business, how to work with clients, etc. So if somebody is saying, okay, I don't know how to start freelancing, I have no idea what freelancing is, or somebody is saying, I've been doing this, but it's not working for me. The fundamental thing is they both don't know what to do. One has no idea and admits it. The second one is trying something, but they actually also don't know what to do. So when I see like a common link, I either address that through my content, or for example, in this case, I had a particular month where there were hundreds of people reaching out to me saying, what is freelancing? Everyone's talking about it. I don't know what it means and I don't know how to do it. So I released an ebook called Freelancing Freedom, which breaks down exactly what freelancing is and teaches it to you like at a kindergarten level, where nobody teaches you these things about freelancing, like the very basics. How do you, even create a proposal, or how do you create an invoice? How do you pick a skill to freelance in? How do you decide what service you should sell? Very challenging things, that or very fundamental things that most people don't teach, right? And that ebook, for example, within the first 6 hours, it sold 150 copies through Instagram, and it just kind of picked on from there. So I would say having a large audience is great, but the problems still remain almost forever the same. So identify those 5 key problems and create content around that. That would be a good approach to have.
What are your goals at this point? What do you want to do with your agency or with your personal development?
I don't see them as exclusive things anymore. I think it's so interconnected in the sense that if and when I improve, and as and how I improve, I can see the agency does better. As and how the agency stalls, I know that this is a stepping stone. I need to make a big shift. Otherwise, I'm not getting past it. So I think it's so interconnected. And we, like the agency and myself, we just evolve together. In terms of goals, I would say having more systemization for sure within the agency. So scaling things. Again, I'm learning on the go, so just want to learn faster. That would be great. And on a personal front, I would love to travel more, like we talked about. I do enjoy it, and I'm hoping that I have more opportunity to do that.
I'm sure you will. Who are some creators that you admire?
I actually follow a lot of fitness accounts, and I really like the way that they write content, because there is so much misinformation in the fitness industry. And it's very important that not only is the correct information presented in the right way, but also creatively, so that people truly understand it and people have context when it comes to something as critical and yet as fundamental and everyday as fitness. So, for example, there is someone called Alexander Cortez, who I have been following for, I think, 4 or 5 years. And now we're friends, and that mainly happened because of like Twitter, Instagram, just following. And I really like the way he writes. So, for me, I've seen that my writing has actually become very similar to his in how direct it is and how clear and concise it is. So, I think that's the kind of adaptation I've taken. But a few more people. To be honest, it's very difficult for me to think of someone specifically because I just read a lot online. But I would say early days, there was definitely Jose Rosado, who turned out to be also a mentor for me. And that was a huge help in just kind of scaling as a freelancer. And yeah, I think these two main people would be like inspiring creators. Yeah.
Okay. So, authenticity, consistency, intentionality, and addressing like five main problems, respond or reading every comment, not necessarily taking the ones that sting to heart, but just trying to see what there is to learn from it in yourself or about your audience or what you're doing. Is there anything else that you would add to the general entrepreneurial audience, either looking to grow their existing accounts or let's say even start an account?
Would that be on LinkedIn?
Sure. Yeah. Let's focus on LinkedIn.
I would say definitely I would go back to like start with a vision. It makes things a lot easier. But at the same time, don't force yourself into a rule book. You don't have to post every single day. You don't have to create content in the ways that somebody else is creating. You can do your own thing. And I sincerely believe that the reason I was successful with LinkedIn, and I was fairly quickly successful with LinkedIn, was because I just didn't know anything better than that. I didn't have, like, nobody was teaching you how to do LinkedIn personal branding. Nobody said you have to post 3 times a week, you have to have content calendars and content buckets. No, I had a story to share. I would write it and I would share it. And at one point, I had just so many ideas flowing that I could write like 2 or 3 posts every single day, and it was fun for me. The whole process was fun. So when people say, "Okay, how exactly did you, get to whatever following count you have on Instagram or LinkedIn now?" In all honesty, I don't know. I just did what I wanted to, what felt right. I went with the flow and it worked. So looking back, it's easier to say that, oh, I did this, because the dots connect. But at the time, I just did what felt right. So I get it. Now things are more competitive. Back when I started, LinkedIn was not really known for personal branding. Now everyone's on there. But if you put that pressure on yourself, then it just it your profile doesn't have the charm. And I think the charm is very, very important, and it can come through even through through a screen. So yeah, I think try to find your charm would be my advice, and don't force it. That would really work.
I like that. The way I put that is follow your heart. Listen to what it says is right. And I guess it goes back to what you mentioned about authenticity. Where would you like to direct people to follow what you're doing, keep up with what you do?
I mean, anywhere you like. So Shreya Pattar, if you just look me up, I'm one of the few lucky ones who has the same username on all social media platforms. So I would say Instagram and LinkedIn are the best places to reach me. But I also do have some stuff up on YouTube. I have a few things up on TikTok. So yeah, you can check those out.
Great. You're everywhere. Well, Shreya, thank you so much for talking to us today. It was really helpful and a pleasure.
Thank you as well, David.